You know those dates where everything seems to click? The kind where you meet someone new and within minutes it feels like you've known them forever? That was the vibe I got when I matched with her on Tinder. Her profile was simple but intriguing, just a few candid shots and a bio that mentioned her love for indie films and weekend hikes. We started chatting and the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about our favorite movies, shared travel stories, and even debated over which pizza topping reigned supreme. It felt genuine, like we were building a real connection. I'd been on a few bad dates before, but this one felt different. There was an energy between us that I hadn't felt in a long time. She seemed so down to earth, real. We didn't waste time with small talk. Instead, we dove into deep conversations, covering everything from our childhood memories to our biggest dreams. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it was the way she laughed at my dumb jokes or how easy it was to talk to her. But after a week of daily texts and late-night phone calls, I started to really like her. We decided to meet up in person. After all, the chemistry was undeniable and we'd already established such a strong rapport over text. We agreed on a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, known for its dim lighting and intimate ambience. I arrived a bit early, wanting to make a good impression, and settled into a corner booth, my mind racing with anticipation. I checked my phone one last time to make sure everything was set, then put it down as I tried to calm my nerves. When she walked in, I recognized her immediately. She had this warm smile that lit up the room and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. She waved when she saw me and I stood up to greet her. As soon as we hugged, I felt that immediate comfort I'd hoped for. It was like we'd known each other for years, and I couldn't help but think, this is it. This is what it's supposed to feel like, We sat down, ordered a bottle of red wine, toasted to new beginnings, and started talking. The conversation was effortless, like it had been all along. We laughed over shared anecdotes, bonded over our mutual love for obscure documentaries, and even found out we'd both traveled to Japan solo. Talk about a coincidence. The night was perfect, everything I had imagined it would be. For a moment, I even thought maybe this was it, the start of something meaningful. But as the night wore on, something changed. At first, it was subtle. She became quieter, her responses shorter. She started glancing around the restaurant, looking a little distracted. I brushed it off, figuring maybe the atmosphere was just a little too loud for her. It's easy to get overwhelmed in a busy place, especially on a first date. I didn't think much of it until we went for a walk afterward. We walked through the quiet streets of downtown, chatting about random things like how cold the night air was and the ridiculousness of street performers. But then she casually dropped a bombshell that caught me completely off guard. She mentioned almost offhandedly that she had been talking to someone else too. It took me a second to process what she meant. Was she talking about a friend, a colleague? But then it hit me. She was seeing other people while we were getting to know each other. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, maybe play it cool, but the other part of me felt like I'd just gotten sucker punched. Was I really just another guy in her dating rotation? I tried to hide my disappointment, but I couldn't help feeling a wave of sadness wash over me. I had thought we were special. I had thought we were building something unique. But there she was, casually telling me that she had been seeing other people too. She explained herself, saying she wasn't ready for anything serious and that she didn't want to lead me on. She said she was just being honest. I appreciated the honesty, I guess, but it still felt like a gut punch. She spoke about her past relationships, how they had shaped her views on dating, and how she wasn't ready to settle down with just one person yet. I tried to listen, really I did, but inside it felt like everything we had built over the past week had suddenly collapsed. All those long conversations, the deep connection, the plans for future dates, it all seemed meaningless now. I couldn't help but feel like I'd been played, like all those things we talked about were just filler, just ways to pass the time until she decided who she really wanted to be with. I didn't say much after that. We continued our walk in silence, the weight of the situation hanging between us like a cloud. My mind was racing. How could I have been so wrong? How had I not seen this coming? Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I'd let myself get too hopeful too soon. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that she had been hiding something. Was this all just a game to her? I didn't want to make a scene, so I smiled weakly, told her I understood, and wished her well. It was an awkward farewell. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no hard feelings or shouting matches, but just parted ways. I didn't even give her a hug. It felt too final for that. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling of being duped. How had I missed the signs? Was I that desperate for companionship that I had ignored all the little things? The next few days were a blur. I deleted our conversations from my phone, unfollowed her on social media, and tried my best to move on. But every now and then, I think back to that night, the laughter, the connection, and the sudden realization that I was just another person in a lineup. It stung more than I'd like to admit, but I tried not to let it get to me. I'd been hurt before, and I'd get over this one too. Reflecting on it now, I realize that sometimes even the best dates don't work out. People come into our lives for a reason, teach us lessons, and then move on. It's up to us to take those lessons, grow from them, and keep moving forward. Dating is a journey filled with ups and downs, and while not every story has a happy ending, each experience adds a new chapter to our own personal narrative. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. You ever talk to someone online and it's just effortless? Like the messages are fast, funny, and weirdly deep at the same time, and you start thinking, okay, maybe this app isn't a total wasteland. That was me with this guy, matched on a lazy Sunday afternoon while I was laying on the floor eating cereal out of a mug. He had this really basic profile, just a few normal pics and some sarcastic one-liner in his bio, but something about it made me swipe right. And he messaged first, which I weirdly appreciated because I hate being the opener. Right from the start we clicked. The conversation just didn't feel like a chore. It was like talking to someone I already knew. We joked about how both of us secretly judge people based on their favorite movie, swapped life goals that were actually kind of similar, and had long weird tangents about things like what kind of bread matches our personalities. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. just texting him, even though I had to be up early the next day. I was half dead at work but couldn't stop smiling when he sent me a meme about how Mondays should be illegal. We kept talking every day, not in a love-bomby way, just consistently. And the more I talked to him, the more I was like, wow, maybe I finally found someone who gets it. No awkward flirting, no pressure, just real. I'd catch myself checking my phone for his name during the day and mentally saving stuff I wanted to tell him later. It started to feel kinda real, even though we hadn't met yet. So when he asked if I wanted to grab a drink, I didn't even hesitate. I said yes right away. It felt like the next obvious step. I wasn't even nervous, just excited. I remember planning my outfit and overthinking if I should wear my hair up or down, but not in a panicky way. Just the usual what if we hit it off and he remembers this outfit forever kind of spiral. We agreed on this bar that was halfway between us. Not too loud, not too fancy. I showed up a little early, mostly so I could scope out the place and not do the awkward entrance thing where you're both looking for each other like lost puppies. I picked a booth near the back and texted him that I was there. When he walked in, I knew immediately. He looked just like his pictures, which was honestly a relief. Tallish, kind eyes, casual outfit. He smiled when he saw me and gave this little wave, and when he sat down, everything was fine at first. The first few minutes were good. He complimented my earrings, I complimented his jacket, we ordered drinks, and the conversation picked up right where we left off online. But then something shifted. I don't even know what triggered it. Maybe the lighting, maybe the way he laughed in person, maybe nothing at all. I started realizing I wasn't into him, like not even a little. I wasn't attracted to him, and I don't mean that in a harsh way. He wasn't ugly or rude or weird. He was nice, really nice. Too nice, like friend zone energy radiating off him in waves. He laughed too loud at my jokes, nodded too much, stared a second too long after I said something. It felt like hanging out with someone I'd grown up with, like my cousin's best friend who I knew since middle school. But I kept trying to make it work. I smiled, nodded, laughed. I asked him more questions, sipped my drink slower, told myself to chill out. It was just nerves or something, right? Not every spark hits instantly. That's what people say. You gotta give it a chance. He told me this long story about a road trip he took with his college roommate and how they got stranded in some tiny town, and I smiled and said it sounded fun, but the entire time I was thinking, I don't want to kiss this person. I don't want him to touch my hand. I don't want this to be more than this moment right here, in this booth, talking about car trouble. And then it happened. We were wrapping up and I could feel that weird tension in the air. The moment where someone's trying to read the vibe and decide if they should lean in. I could see it coming, but I froze. He looked at me with this hopeful, nervous smile and leaned toward me just slightly, like he was testing the waters. I didn't move, at all. I just sat there stiff like a store mannequin, panicking in my head. He got a little closer, and that's when I blurted it out. I told him I thought we should just be friends. Right then, right there. In the booth, over the last few sips of my drink, I said the thing everyone dreads hearing after a first date. His face dropped just a little. Not enough to be dramatic, but just enough that I noticed. He pulled back, nodded, gave a weird laugh like he was trying to act cool about it, and said he understood. I died inside. We sat there for a few more minutes, mostly in silence. Paid the check. Walked outside together in this awkward quiet. I wanted to melt into the sidewalk. He gave me a hug that was way too polite, said it was nice to meet me, and then walked off in the other direction. I stood there watching him go for a second, then turned and walked to my car in complete silence. No music, no calls, no nothing. Just sitting there in the dark, headlights glowing on the wall in front of me, feeling like the worst person alive for making someone feel like that. I wasn't wrong for telling him how I felt, but I still hated how it went down. I still remember the look on his face when I said it. Not angry, just disappointed. Like someone who'd hoped for something and realized it wasn't gonna happen. We didn't talk after that. No follow-up texts. No hope you got home safe. Just silence. I saw his profile again a few months later while swiping. Same pictures, same bio. Still looked like someone I could talk to for hours, but I kept swiping. Sometimes I think about him. Not in a romantic way, just like, I hope he's doing okay. Hope he met someone who looked at him and felt the spark I didn't. Dating apps are weird like that. You can talk to someone for hours, feel like you've known them forever, and still sit across from them and know it's not right. And you can't force that. You just can't. Some dates start out so normal you don't even think twice about them. That's what this was, just a regular third date on a random Thursday night, sitting across from this girl I had met on Tinder like 3 weeks before. The bar wasn't anything special, dim lighting, cheap drinks, indie music too quiet to recognize but loud enough to fill the awkward silences if they ever popped up. They didn't though, not that night. We'd already had 2 solid dates. First was coffee, second was sushi. Both low pressure, easy. She was cool, funny without trying too hard, kinda sarcastic but not mean about it. We liked the same random movies and both agreed that pineapple on pizza isn't that deep of a debate. I didn't have any expectations really. It was one of those connections where you keep talking because it's fun and doesn't feel forced, and suddenly you're looking forward to their texts even if you tell yourself you're just playing it cool. So yeah, this third date felt like it was gonna be more of the same. We got there, grabbed a booth, and ordered drinks like we'd done this a dozen times. She told a story about some nightmare coworker, and I laughed so hard I actually choked on my beer. It was easy, comfortable. I didn't feel like I had to perform or come up with interesting things to say. We were both just there being people, not trying to impress each other anymore. That should have been a green flag, right? But somewhere in the middle of the conversation, she started talking about her ex. Nothing dramatic, just one of those natural segues when you're sharing dating horror stories. I told her one of mine too. We laughed about how we'd both been ghosted in the past, joked about how dating apps are basically cursed, and then without thinking I said something I hadn't even planned to say out loud. I told her I wasn't totally sure if I'd ever wanted to get married. It just slipped out. I didn't mean it like some huge confession. It wasn't even that serious in my head. I wasn't trying to kill the vibe or make a statement. It was just there and it came out. And right after I said it, I immediately wished that hadn't. It was like this invisible wall popped up between us, and I could feel the energy shift. I laughed a little to cover it up and said something about how I probably didn't mean it, or I wasn't sure what I meant. The more I talked, the dumber it sounded. She didn't say anything right away, just looked at me, not mad, not upset, just quiet. And then, after a few seconds that felt way longer than they were, she said it was the most honest thing anyone had told her in a long time. It hit me harder than it should have. There was this pause and I couldn't tell if she meant it in a good way or if I had just ruined everything. But she smiled just a little and then the conversation kept going like nothing had happened. We finished our drinks, talked about a weird news article we'd both seen, shared an appetizer. But I couldn't get that moment out of my head. The weird part was how calm it made me feel. Like for the first time in forever, I'd said something real without worrying how it sounded. I didn't wrap it up in some polished sentence or try to read her mind while saying it. I just said it. And yeah, it scared me a little because I wasn't totally sure why I'd said it. I started thinking about it more after that night. The marriage thing. Not just in a do I want it or not kind of way, but more like, why does it make me feel cornered every time it comes up? I'd had relationships before, good ones, but the second it gets serious, like actually serious, something in me starts looking for the exit. I start overanalyzing stuff, picking apart little things that don't matter, convincing myself it won't work even when it totally could. It's not like I have some trauma from it or anything. My parents are still together. Most of my friends are in relationships and seem happy. There's no big dramatic backstory. It's just this weird pressure that creeps in when things get too solid. Like being tied to something I'm not ready for. After our third date, we kept seeing each other. A few more dates here and there. Nothing official, just consistent. We text at night, talk about stupid stuff, share songs we were into. But that conversation stuck with me. I don't even know if she remembered it or thought about it as much as I did. Maybe it was just one of those throwaway moments to her. But to me, it was like I'd accidentally cracked myself open in front of someone and didn't know how to close it back up. Eventually, things started to fade, not in a dramatic way, just slowly, a few canceled plans, slower replies, less energy on both ends. Neither of us ever brought up what we were doing or where it was going. I think we both kind of knew it wasn't gonna turn into anything more. Maybe because of what I said, maybe not. I'll never really know. But I still think about that night a lot. Not because I miss her specifically, though she was cool and I hope she's doing alright, but because of what it showed me about myself. That I might not be afraid of relationships or dating or people. Maybe I'm just scared of permanence, of making a choice that can't be undone, of promising something I'm not sure I can keep. I haven't been on Tinder in a while, not because of her. Just needed a break from the swiping, the small talk, the same recycled conversations. Sometimes it all starts to blur together and you forget why you're even doing it. But every now and then I'll think about going back on, just to see who's out there. Maybe next time I'll figure out how to say what I mean without panicking. Or maybe I'll keep messing it up, who knows. It started like one of those nights where you're not even trying to find someone. I wasn't in the mood to swipe, but I was bored out of my mind, lying on the couch with a blanket half on, watching the same show I've rewatched a million times, just scrolling through Tinder because it was better than doing nothing. Most of the people I saw were either way too into themselves, had weird bios that said stuff like only here for a good time, or had photos that looked like they hadn't been updated since 2014. Then I came across him. No dramatic music or anything, just a regular profile. He was cute in that low-key way, not trying too hard, just a couple of chill pictures. One with a dog, one drinking coffee, one where he's making a face at the camera like he wasn't even trying to look hot but somehow pulled it off. His bio just said something dumb like professional overthinker, which instantly got a laugh out of me because same. I swiped right, matched instantly. We started talking the next day and it was easy, like scarily easy. He wasn't one of those guys who jumped straight into small talk or tried to be flirty right away. He actually asked questions and didn't give dry replies. I didn't have to pull teeth just to keep the conversation going. I caught myself smiling at my phone way more than I wanted to admit, even in public. You know when someone texts you and you instantly open it, even though you told yourself you were gonna play it cool? That was me. We talked every day for about a week. Nothing super intense, just back and forths about our days, random stuff we liked, memes, and dumb stories about weird things that happened to us. He had a chill vibe, kind of sarcastic but not in a try-hard way. I started getting excited about him. Not in the full-on I'm in love kind of way, just that little buzz you get when someone new feels like they might actually be different. We made plans to meet up for coffee. It wasn't anything fancy, just a little spot downtown that he said had good ice lattes. The plan was super simple. 2 p.m. Saturday, grab coffee, hang out for a bit. I wasn't stressing about it too much, but deep down I kind of was. I wanted it to go well, not just in a romantic way, but because I genuinely liked talking to him, and it had been a while since I clicked with someone like that. The night before the date, my best friend came over. We were just hanging out in my room, going through outfit options, doing that whole "does this make me look too dressed up" thing. I had my phone in my hand, texting her while also texting him. Multitasking. Dangerous. I typed out a quick message to her, just something dumb. It said, "He seems cute, but I have a feeling he's going to be one of those guys who talks about himself the whole time, lol." I didn't even think about it, just hit send and tossed my phone on the bed while we kept looking at tops. Then my phone buzzed, I glanced over and that's when I saw it. I had sent it to asterisk and asterisk. I sat there staring at the screen like I could somehow reverse it with pure willpower. My heart legit dropped into my stomach. You ever feel that full body panic, like your soul just left the chat? That was me. I picked my phone up so slowly, hoping maybe I'd hallucinated it or sent it to someone else, but no. Right there, clear as day, my dumb message sitting in our chat. Sent. Read. I could barely breathe. I started rambling to my friend like, "Oh my god, what do I do?" Pacing back and forth like that would solve anything. She laughed, which I did not appreciate in the moment, and told me to just own it and apologize. I was about to start typing out some long, embarrassing explanation when he responded. All he said was, "Haha, I'll try not to talk about myself too much." That somehow made it worse and better at the same time. He didn't get mad, didn't call me out, didn't even sound annoyed, just played it off. I sent this long message saying I was sorry that it was meant for my friend and that I didn't mean it in a mean way. I just tend to overthink stuff before first dates. He replied again, said it was all good and that he was actually looking forward to meeting me. I felt like I wanted to bury myself under my bed forever. But the next day came and I still got dressed and went to the coffee shop. I kept wondering if he was secretly mad and just pretending to be cool about it, or if he was gonna bring it up and joke about it the whole time. I walked in a few minutes early and sat at a little table near the window, nervously checking the door every 30 seconds. Then he showed up, and honestly, he looked even better in person. Taller than I expected, kind of scruffy, but in a good way. He walked over, smiled, and said hey like nothing was weird at all. I wanted to bring it up, to make some awkward comment and get it out of the way, but he didn't mention it once, not even a passing joke. The date went weirdly well. We talked for over 2 hours, and not just surface-level stuff either, actual conversations that bounced back and forth like we'd known each other longer than we had. He was funny, thoughtful, and yeah, he did talk about himself a little, but not in an annoying way. It was balanced, easy, natural. I kept thinking about how badly I'd misjudged him from that one dumb thought I'd had. When I got home, I texted him to say I had a great time. He said the same. We kept talking after that. A few more dates happened. Nothing crazy. It didn't turn into some fairy tale or whatever. We're not married now or traveling the world together or anything dramatic like that. But even now, I still think about that moment and cringe a little. Not because he ever held it against me, he didn't, but because I let one little assumption almost ruin something that could have been really good. It stuck with me in this weird way. We don't talk much anymore. Things faded out naturally. Life got busy. We both started seeing other people. But every once in a while, I'll scroll back through my old texts and see that one, and just groan at myself. Probably always will. It's funny how fast things can flip. One message, one wrong send, and you're either screwed or somehow still end up on a great date anyway. You know when it's way too late at night and you should definitely be asleep, but instead you're lying in bed scrolling through Tinder like your soulmate's gonna show up between memes and half-dead profiles? That was me, just brain fried from a long day, half-lidded eyes, phone dimmed, not even really paying attention. Then I saw her. She stood out immediately. Not like the usual cute selfie with dog kind of profile, but model-level gorgeous. One of those profiles where you hesitate before swiping right because it feels too good to be real. Like maybe it's a trap or a prank or she's trying to sell you protein shakes, but I swiped right anyway. Whatever. It was late, I was bored, and I wasn't expecting much. Match. That little animation popped up and my brain woke up for the first time all day. She messaged me first too, which felt weird but exciting. Her name was Ava. Her photos looked like something out of a magazine. Sunlight hitting her just right. Big green eyes, smile that made you think she was up to something. There was one of her at a beach in a swimsuit, another one in a hoodie, curled up on a couch, and one where she looked like she was just out grocery shopping, but still somehow made it look cool. We texted for hours that night, literally hours, until the sun started coming up and I realized I hadn't even gotten under the blanket. She was funny, like actual laugh out loud of funny. Witty comebacks, weird takes on random stuff, even a story about how she once fell into a bush trying to impress someone at a party. She made it easy to keep talking, and I kind of forgot I was even using a dating app. It just felt natural, effortless. Then she started sending pictures, not even dirty ones or anything. Just casual selfies of her just woke up or sitting in traffic with sunglasses on. At first, it added to the whole vibe, like we were just getting to know each other the way people do when it's fresh and exciting and kind of intense in the best way. I was into it, fully hooked. We made plans to meet, just for coffee, nothing intense, nothing formal. She picked the place and the time, and I marked it down in my calendar like some dorky middle schooler prepping for a first date. I remember telling my roommate about her, showed him a picture, and even he was like, dude, there's no way. I should have listened. A couple hours before we were supposed to meet, she messaged saying there'd been a family emergency, said she had to cancel but really wanted to reschedule. She was super apologetic, said she'd been looking forward to it too. I told her it was cool. Life happens, but even as I typed it, something felt off. I waited a few days, still talked to her here and there, but something had changed. The vibe felt different. Like she was still around, but there were delays in replies, shorter messages, fewer photos. I started to wonder if maybe something else was going on. And that's when the thought hit me, what if she wasn't who she said she was? It sounds paranoid, but I couldn't let it go, so I did something I'd never done before. I took one of her pictures and ran it through a reverse image search. That moment when the results popped up was like a punch in the gut. Her photos weren't hers, not even close. They belonged to some model from Brazil. I found her Instagram and every photo Ava had sent me was there. Same poses, same filters, same everything. It wasn't even a creative fake, just straight up copy-paste. No edits, no changes. I stared at my screen for a solid 10 minutes, not angry, just empty. It was like finding out a friend wasn't real. I scrolled back through all our messages, every photo she'd sent, every weird inside joke we had. All of it felt fake now, like it belonged to someone else. But here's the thing, I wasn't mad. Not really, I just wanted to know why. Why pretend to be someone else when we had something real? Whoever she was behind the screen, she was smart and funny and easy to talk to. So why hide? Why build this fantasy? I never confronted her, didn't block her either. I just kind of drifted, stopped replying, let the messages sit unopened. She messaged a few more times, asked if I was okay, said she missed our chats. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. After a while, the messages stopped coming. A week later, I got a message from a different account. No profile picture, no info, just a plain message that said sorry. That freaked me out more than anything else. I didn't reply. I started thinking about all the stuff she told me, where she worked, what school she went to, stories about her dog or her weird neighbors. I couldn't tell what was real and what was part of the character. Was any of it true? Or was it just some bored person behind a screen trying to feel something? And the worst part is, I still think about her, not the fake version, not the photos, but the person I talked to at 2 in the morning about dumb movies and childhood snacks and conspiracy theories about pigeons. That person felt real, even if the face wasn't. I still wonder who she was. Some days I check my messages like maybe she'll show up again, not as Ava, just as herself, but nothing ever comes. It's weird how something that started with a swipe turned into this lingering mystery I can't get out of my head. I deleted Tinder not long after. Can't really bring myself to go back on it. Not because I'm scared, just because I don't want to fall into another fantasy and not know if I'm talking to a real person or someone playing a part. It was late at night when I matched with her, and now I think about that every time I'm lying in bed scrolling through my phone. Like maybe she's still out there. Or maybe she was never there to begin with. There's this weird kind of hope that kicks in when you match with someone who's way out of your league. Like, your brain knows it's probably not real, but your ego clings to it anyway. That's what it was like when I matched with this guy, Drew. He looked like he belonged in one of those cologne ads, clean jawline, nice teeth, dimples, the whole setup. He wasn't trying too hard either, just a few casual photos, one of him holding a dog, another at a beach, and a blurry one where he looked like he was laughing at something off camera. It felt natural, like he didn't even care how hot he was. And that made it worse, or better, depends how you look at it. We started talking, and he was just as smooth in messages, not cheesy, not boring. He had this effortless way of texting that made it easy to reply to. Like he didn't have to overthink anything. He'd say something funny, I'd laugh and send something back, and it felt like we'd known each other for longer than just a few days. He told me he worked in creative marketing, said he freelanced a lot and didn't like being tied down to one thing. I thought that was kind of cool. Free-spirited, you know? I imagined he was one of those guys who had a minimalist apartment with lots of plants and maybe a cat. I don't even like cats that much, but I would have tolerated one. So yeah, by the time we made plans to meet up, I was excited, like fully hyped. I picked out a cute outfit, did my makeup twice, kept checking my phone like it was gonna give me some kind of clue if the night was gonna go well. We were meeting at this chill bar downtown, kind of dive but with nice lighting. I got there early and grabbed a seat near the window so I could see when he walked up. I was scrolling through Instagram, pretending not to be too eager, when I noticed someone walking up to the door. At first, I didn't even think it was him. This guy looked, not just different, but like a whole other person. His posture was hunched, his shirt was wrinkled, and he looked way older. Not just a few years older than his pics, kind of older. I'm talking forehead lines, tired eyes, and yeah, the hairline had definitely retreated. I just kind of sat there frozen. He walked in and looked right at me like we'd been friends for years. Now, I know what people say, you should judge someone on personality, not looks, and I get that, but this wasn't a case of, oh, he used an old pic. It felt deliberate. Like he'd created this whole profile that wasn't even close to who he was. And that messed with me more than anything. I should have just walked out, said I wasn't feeling well or that I had to go. But instead I smiled, stood up, and gave him a hug. It was awkward. I remember how weird it felt, like hugging a stranger who thought you were someone else. We sat down and he started talking like nothing was wrong, like we were exactly who we said we were. He was way too comfortable, almost like he'd done this before. That made it worse. He kept referencing things we talked about over text, but it all felt off now. I couldn't match the words with the face in front of me. It was like watching a dubbed movie where the mouths didn't line up. The bar was kind of loud, and I kept getting distracted by the weird thoughts in my head. Like, what if he wasn't just lying about his looks? What else could he be lying about? His job? His name? Was Drew even his real name? The longer I sat there, the more I felt like I was just playing along in some messed up game. I'd look down at my drink and wonder how many other people he fooled before me. There was a moment where he reached across the table, like he was gonna touch my hand or something, and I pulled away without thinking. He didn't say anything about it, just kind of smiled, but it was this tight, forced smile. I couldn't tell if he was embarrassed or annoyed. I pretended to get a text from a friend and told him I might have to cut the night short. He nodded like he understood, but the way his eyes followed me as I stood up gave me this weird pit in my stomach. I paid for my drink and left. Outside, I took a breath like I'd just come up for air. I didn't even look back, just walked straight to my car and sat there for a minute trying to figure out what had just happened. I felt dumb, I felt tricked. But more than anything, I felt weirdly guilty. Like, was I the bad guy for caring that he didn't look like his pictures? Or was I just being honest? When I got home, I sent him a message saying thanks for meeting up, but I didn't think it was gonna work out. I didn't mention the pictures or the age or anything, just kept it short and polite. Then I blocked him and deleted the app. That should have been the end of it. But a few days later, I started getting random calls from an unknown number. Never left a voicemail, just hung up after a couple rings. Then my Instagram DMs got hit by some weird account with no profile pic. Just said you look different too. I didn't reply. I blocked the account, but another one popped up the next day. Same message. You look different too. That repeated for a week, always from new accounts. I set my profile to private, turned off message requests, but the accounts kept popping up like they were watching from a distance. It didn't stop there. One night I was leaving work late. The parking lot was nearly empty. I was walking to my car when I noticed someone sitting in a vehicle a few spaces down, just staring. Lights off, engine running. Couldn't see his face, but something about the silhouette made my stomach drop. I got in my car and locked the doors right away. As I pulled out, the other car started its lights and drove off in the opposite direction. I told myself it wasn't him. Could have been anyone. But deep down, I wasn't sure. I started changing up my routines. Parked in different spots, took longer routes home. I deleted all my dating apps. Still, sometimes I'll catch a glimpse of someone in a crowd and my heart jumps. I'll think it's him, even though I know it's probably not. I haven't gone on a date since. Not because I'm scared, but because I can't get rid of that feeling. The one that creeps in when something looks perfect, but you don't know what's behind it. I don't know who Drew really was, maybe I never will. But I do know one thing, sometimes a match isn't just a match, it's a trap. You ever get that feeling that something was just *2* perfect? That gut feeling that tells you it's going well, but deep down you're waiting for the trap to snap shut. That was me. This girl, she was different. We'd matched on Tinder, and at first it was like any other conversation. The usual hey, what's up stuff, some small talk, getting to know each other. But then, somewhere along the line, things started to click. Not the usual, oh yeah, we have some things in common type of click, but a deeper one, you know? Like we were on the same wavelength. Every message just flowed and the jokes hit just right. The longer we talked, the more I felt like I was talking to someone who truly understood me. I still remember the night it all started feeling too real. We'd been chatting for a couple of weeks, and by then we had the usual late-night conversations about everything from random childhood memories to deep stuff like the meaning of life, our biggest fears, and even some of the weirdest, most embarrassing things we'd done. Honestly, it felt like we'd known each other forever. Then out of nowhere she asked if I wanted to meet up. It was one of those things where you almost no the moment it happens, it's going to change everything. At first, I wasn't sure what to say. We talked about meeting up before, but I always kind of pushed it aside. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe I wasn't sure if I was ready to get that close to someone. But the truth was I was scared, and I couldn't bring myself to admit it, so I just froze. I told myself I wasn't ready for a relationship, that I needed to focus on other things in my life. But that was just me lying to myself. I was terrified. Terrified of how well things were going and how real it felt. Terrified of putting myself out there and then failing. What if I messed it all up? What if it didn't work out and I'd lost my shot at something good? So I did what any person who's scared would do. I ghosted her. Looking back now, I can't even fully explain why. I didn't even have a good reason. One minute I was talking to her about some random movie we both loved, and the next I was just gone. It was like I shut down entirely. No explanation, no hey, I'm sorry, I'm just not in the right headspace, nothing. I just vanished, hoping maybe she'd forget about me and move on. But she didn't. I'd check my phone every now and then, half expecting to see a message from her asking why I disappeared. The first few days, nothing. And then about a week later, she sent me something. It wasn't rude or aggressive, just a simple hey, are you okay? But I couldn't bring myself to respond. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I was just ashamed, or maybe it was that same fear. Either way, I left her hanging. I spent the next few months in this weird limbo. There were times I thought about reaching out to her, apologizing for disappearing. but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Every time I went on Tinder or swiped through my social media, I'd see her profile pop up in my suggestions, and it always hit me in this weird way. It was like a constant reminder of the one thing I couldn't shake off, the girl I just let slip away. And that's when things started to get weird. At first, it was small stuff. I'd get these odd feelings when I was out, like someone was watching me. Nothing overt, but just this nagging sensation. Then it started happening more frequently. It wasn't like I was paranoid, but every time I left my apartment, I'd catch myself looking over my shoulder. There were a few times I'd swear I saw someone standing in the distance, just watching me, but when I'd turn around, they were gone. At first, I thought maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. You know how it is when you feel guilty. Sometimes you start imagining things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. It would happen more often when I was walking home at night. That's when it really started to creep me out. One night, I was walking back from a friend's place when I saw a shadow following me. It was far enough behind that I couldn't make out any details, but it was close enough that I knew someone was there. I sped up, trying to get to my apartment faster, but the shadow kept pace with me. I was almost home when I turned a corner and saw them. It was a woman standing by a street lamp, just staring at me. I froze. It was like my whole body went cold. I couldn't move, couldn't even think straight. There was something about the way she stood there, completely still, like she was waiting for something. I don't know how long I stood there staring back at her, but when I finally snapped out of it, I took off running without even thinking. When I got inside, I locked the door and just sat there, heart pounding. My mind was racing. Was it her? Was it just some random person? And if it wasn't her, then why did I feel like she was somehow connected to me? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that it wasn't just my imagination. I was terrified, but I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. Who could I tell? Hey, I ghosted this girl I met on Tinder, and now I think she's stalking me. Yeah, not exactly a conversation you have with friends. Days turned into weeks, and the weird occurrences didn't stop. I started seeing her face in the background of photos, random accounts I followed, even in the reflection of windows. It was like she was everywhere, always lurking just out of sight. It became this constant nagging thought that I couldn't escape. What had I done? What was she thinking? Was she really stalking me, or was it all just my guilt and paranoia twisting my mind? To this day, I don't know if she was actually following me or if it was all in my head, but the feeling never fully went away. Every time I walked down a street at night, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see her standing there waiting. I can't help but wonder if I'd ever truly let her go. I still think about her, and I still wonder what might have happened if I hadn't ghosted her. But it's too late now. The door is closed, and whatever chances we had are gone. And every time I hear a sound in the night or see someone staring from a distance, I can't shake the feeling that she might still be out there waiting. You know how sometimes it starts off so good that you almost forget you're on a dating app? That's what this was, one of those rare times where you actually match with someone and don't immediately regret it. He wasn't one of those guys trying to be overly smooth or throwing out cringe pickup lines, just normal. Normal in a good way, funny, thoughtful, a little awkward but charming. He had this calm energy to him that made me feel like I could relax, like really relax. And after a handful of awkward first dates with guys who talked like they were auditioning for a podcast, it was such a relief. We texted for about a week before meeting. Nothing too deep at first, just music, dumb memes, movies we liked. But then it started getting a little more personal. He told me about his family, how he recently moved back into the city after a breakup, and how dating again was kinda weird for him. I should have clocked that moment a little harder, honestly, but I didn't. I figured we all have exes, right? It didn't seem like a big deal. Our first date was at this little taco spot I'd never been to before. I remember it clearly because the place had those string lights on the ceiling and every table was slightly wobbly. We ended up staying way longer than I expected. Like, closed the place down late. Conversation was easy, and I laughed more than I had in a while. He was sweet and weirdly open in a way that made me feel like he wasn't playing games. So we kept seeing each other. The second date was drinks at this rooftop bar he picked. The third was pizza and a walk through this random park I didn't even know existed. It all felt so casual and easy. I started to get excited, like maybe this could actually turn into something. But then the ex started showing up. Not in person, thank God, but in the way that slowly started creeping into everything he said. At first it was small, like we'd be talking about dogs and he'd say she used to foster pit bulls, or I'd mention I wanted to go to New Orleans one day and he'd go off about the trip he and his ex took there. Still, I brushed it off. I mean, she was a part of his life. I wasn't gonna get weird about that. But it didn't stop. In fact, it started getting worse. He brought her up on every single date after that. I'm not exaggerating, every single one. And not in a bitter or dramatic way either. That's what made it weirder. He talked about her like they were still close. He would smile when he mentioned her like he was still carrying pieces of that relationship around in his head. He even laughed about inside jokes they had, like I was supposed to be in on it too. And when I didn't laugh, he'd say something like, I guess you had to be there. Which yeah, I wasn't, as I wasn't her. There was one date where we were talking about horror movies, and I said I hated slasher stuff. He told me his ex loved them and made him watch all the classics. Then he went off listing every single one they saw together, talking about how she always yelled at the screen and covered her eyes at the gory parts. And I just sat there like, cool story, dude. Do you want me to leave so you can finish that memory by yourself? By the 5th date, I started getting this knot in my stomach. It wasn't even jealousy, I just felt like I was sitting in the wrong seat. Like someone else was supposed to be across the table from him and I was just accidentally filling in. It was uncomfortable. He wasn't mean or inconsiderate, but it was like he didn't even realize how often he was mentioning her. I tried to convince myself it was harmless, that maybe this was just his way of processing things, that maybe he was just bad at dating after a long-term thing. But eventually I had to ask him. We were walking through a bookstore after dinner and I just turned and asked if he was actually over her. He looked surprised, like it hadn't occurred to him that it was a problem. He said he was totally moved on, but he said it way too fast, like almost offensive, the kind of answer you rehearse, and maybe part of him believed it, but I didn't. That was the last time we saw each other. I didn't ghost him. I told him nicely that I didn't think I could keep seeing someone who wasn't fully here. I didn't want to be a stand-in for someone he clearly hadn't let go of. He said he understood. We wished each other the best, and that was that. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't end in a fight or some big moment. It just fizzled out with this weird sense of unfinished business, not between us, but between him and her. I don't know if he ever got closure or if he even realized he needed it, but I wasn't going to wait around while he figured it out. Sometimes I think about reaching out just to see how he's doing. I never do. It's not really my place, but I still wonder what would have happened if the timing had been different. If he'd met me a year later when his heart wasn't still echoing someone else's name. I hope he's better now. I hope he moved on and stopped comparing everyone to the person who left. But mostly I hope I never have to hear about another ex on a date again.